Hello, I am here to discuss the minimum wage and inflation comparisons over the last 50 years. So, beginning with minimum wage rates between 1974 and 81, the minimum wages increased from $2 an hour to $3.31 an hour. And this was an exception for the agriculture and farmer workers. The minimum wage increase was lifted in 1977. So there was some discussion that the farmers and the agriculture workers should be allowed minimum wage also. And then to allow the effects of inflation, the $250,000 volume of sales coverage test for retail trade and service enterprises was increased in stages. So it didn't all happen at once, um, but it increased to $362,500 after December 31st of 1981. So to keep with the inflation rates. And then between 1985 to 1991, overtime pay was granted and minimum wage was raised again to $4.25 an hour. And the overtime pay was not for everyone. It was specifically for certain types of service work and other parts of uh, the workforce that were not just that they thought at the time that the law thought at the time was worth the overtime pay. And then in 1989, amendments established a single annual dollar volume test, again, of now $500,000 for enterprise coverage for both retail and no retail businesses. So it included the retail businesses, but not the smaller ones. So it would be something like a Target or a Walmart, things like that. And then between 1996 2009, minimum wage rates increased again from 4.75 to 7.25 an hour, and that's kind of where it's been up until recently. Now, the inflation rates fluctuated, but it remained semi-steady throughout the years, except for, a few years in the 70s. It was between like the 9, 8, 9, 10, 11%, and that's where it spiked very high. And then in the early 80s and 90s, it was approximately up there again around 6%. So the steady rates were between 1 and 3, maybe 4, but it spiked just in those few times. And then today, inflation, as we know and we're seeing, is at a high of 8.6. So that is pretty high ever since the 70s. It hasn't been this high. Oh, excuse me, since 1982. For my recommendations for minimum wage, I would say that it should continue to raise based on inflation rates, based on, um, just kind of uh, the experience and things like that. But again, we get into pros and cons of that. So the pros would be, looking at reducing poverty rates, the even wealth distribution, reducing those wage gaps, um, and then helping also the public assistance spending, not needing as much help for, the food and the health care and things like that. And then again, keeps up with the inflation rates. So then the negative, the cons, it negates experience and wage difference. So people are starting to take less um, jobs that they are overqualified for, because they're like, I don't need to work as hard because they're raising wages already, and then a lot of times raising the wages, there becomes more dropouts of you know furthering education, vocational schools, things like that. So people are not seeing a need to go to college anymore because the minimum wage raised. So there's, a lot of times the motivation for school, extra school, is the wages. Being able to request higher wages because of your education. And then again, encourages underemployment, overqualified individuals, and then also encourages offshoring, which is, businesses who can have remote workers in different countries and they can pay them less because their minimum wage is a lot less than here in the US. So those are just a few things about minimum wage and my references. Thank you very much.